Okay, so I got this question for you guys. We go to a mock draft here, okay? Would you love this or hate this? Shedeur Sanders gets to the Cowboys at 12. Cowboys send it in for the new quarterback. You have Deion's kid getting ready to play for the Cowboys. This is a USA Today mock draft, by the way, if you're wondering who would do this. For me, I think they're one injury away from being ready to make this kind of a draft pick. And until then, you should probably pepper it with, much less draft capital. I'm thinking day 3. Maybe just go with Trey Lance and say, what the hell, do we really need a backup quarterback until it's time to move on? But I like kind of prospecting on day 3, trying to find a guy until then. But at the same time, how often do you get a chance to pick a player at 12, a quarterback who could go in the top 10? I just think it comes down to how much you like the guy. If you like the guy, Dak Prescott's about to be 32 years old. With his injury history, it wouldn't be a totally crazy idea, would it?
No, it wouldn't be a crazy idea. Because everything you just said, I think you literally are one more Dak Prescott injury away from you're probably going to have to think to yourself, should we move on? And Shedeur, I think, and I mentioned this on the show a while back, it takes kind of a special type of person to be able to handle everything that comes with being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It might be the most scrutinized position in all of sports. Shedeur's dealt with that since he started playing football. He's kind of been built for that. And I do think there is a possibility that, look, if they're not going to ultimately win a Super Bowl, which I don't think that any of us feel like they are right now, let's make this thing entertaining. And Shedeur would be fun, and I think Shedeur's a good quarterback.
I just like the idea of you don't have to put the rookie in to save the franchise. That's a lot on his shoulders. He can, learn under Dak, and there's not a lot of pressure. After a while, of course, there'll be that quarterback controversy if you're competing for a job. But like I said, I just like the idea that you're not putting a rookie out there and say, hey, friend, save our franchise or you're washed.
That's a great point, Lucius, because usually it's, hey, you're getting picked. If you're one of these type quarterbacks, you're being picked in the top 5, top 10, and you're on a team now that is picking there for a reason because they absolutely suck. You just saw Caleb Williams and the Bears.
Yeah.
And there's been horror stories across sports, and especially in football at this position. That's what happens. It's like you are now with what was one of the worst teams in the league last year, and with the Cowboys, they're not that. And you have the time factor. It's not a day one thing, but also you're not talking about the worst roster in football.
Yeah, and I just don't know how many more opportunities you're going to get to take a quarterback like that because they are a good roster, as you mentioned. And if you absolutely nail this pick and add a really good star young running back, you're going to be picking at worst in the middle of the first round, where oftentimes, quarterbacks who are worthy prospects just don't make it.
And it meets the sexy factor, too.
It does.
This isn't just some random, it's like, hey, here's Kyle McCord or what. This is Shedeur freaking Sanders. Jerry could wrap his arms around that. But this would all be so much more palatable if they had not done the Dak deal, and now you're sitting there open for business like we need the quarterback.
Right. No, 100%, but it would be similar, and it's a little bit earlier than what Green Bay did. But it's kind of like, hey, we've got a quarterback we like. We've got Favre, but we're taking Rodgers. We've got Rodgers, but we're taking Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys haven't really had a plan at quarterback.
Yeah, Teddy then on that draft with Rodgers was they were going defense. And when Rodgers kept sliding down the board, Teddy in the draft room goes, we got to take Rodgers, don't we? Don't we have to? And it was kind of like the Cowboys with what they did with CeeDee Lamb. Like it was like, well, wait a minute now. We have this guy at a certain spot. Don't we have to take this guy?
Yeah.
And so, you need to ask yourself that question, if you're the Cowboys.
Dude, okay, you get one question to the Joneses right now in terms of their board. You get to know about one player of where they have him slotted. It's not about what you think about him. Where do they have him? You get one true serum, because I think Shedeur Sanders would be one of the more interesting ones. Where do they actually view him? Because if he is top 5 or something like that in their mind, then it becomes a real conversation. If you have him like as a second-round graded quarterback, you might not make the swing at 12.
Sure. I'd be interested to see where they have Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be interested.
Jackson Dart and Shuck are the other two players that theoretically could go in the first round.
I don't buy the Shuck
the
stuff.
Shuck thing. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think that Jackson Dart is the guy that most likely will be. And if we'll see what happens with Pittsburgh at 21, we might get somebody that trades back into the round in the back end that goes and gets one of these guys. But I would think that Jackson Dart would be the last first round quarterback.
Would you be interested in Shedeur at 12?
Me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd be interested. I'm not saying I would do it because I think I'm going to have Jackson Dart over him when I work on.
So you'd be interested in Jackson Dart?
I would be. Yeah. That's the discussion I would have, and that's when you said, "What's a question you would ask Jerry and Steven? Where do you have Jackson Dart? If they don't have Jackson Dart as their second quarterback, then I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised.
Well, I want to know, and I guess this would be a question about Dak, but how many more great years do you guys believe he has in him? Truth serum, they would never say it publicly, but, how much do you imagine that avulsion fracture surgery could impact his athleticism going forward? It's possible. They think we're just starting a 4-year deal and he's going to play at the MVP level that he performed at 2023. If that's the case, then this is kind of a non-starter. But the Tony Romo thing came fast, and I wonder if this time they're thinking maybe we should take this opportunity to be more ready for it.
Yeah, how proactive do you want to be about the inevitability of this thing ending with Dak breaking down?
Yeah.
And they had the opportunity, sorry to cut you off there, with Justin Fields a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They chose not to do it. They traded back.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, Shedeur, they obviously didn't covet Fields. Would they covet Shedeur?
I mean, you can punt on the idea of taking a first-round quarterback that's staring you in the face there, and then Dak does retire. You end up getting some jobber off the street. You end up going with a rookie, and you can go a long time without getting somebody with the kind of traits that could be available to you on the board right here.
See, the thing that I think would be the discussion I would have is this, and Zach will tell you this. There's so much unknown ahead of us with the players. Is Shedeur or Jackson Dart better than these tackles we're talking about playing guards, or a wide receiver that might be a 4-5-5 guy, or the second running back? That's the question I think you have to ask yourself. Are we going to miss out an opportunity to draft a guy, Shedeur or Jackson Dart, at 12, and then maybe take an opportunity to draft somebody that might not be as good?
Yeah, could it be a trust your board type of situation?
I think so. I think so.
Dane Brugler writing about how this year's draft sets up well to fit the Cowboys' needs. He's looking at running back and defensive tackle, but his explanation on Ashton Jeanty finally made it into focus for me on what makes him different. Brugler says, what I love the most about his game is the reactionary reads. He won't predetermine his path. He has the instincts to read, sort, and cut. One, a big play creator. He had 12 carries of 50-plus yards in 2024. No other college player had more than 5.
This is why he's not going to be there for Dallas at 12, because media scouts have figured out, everybody was mocking him, Dallas at 12, Dallas at 12. Dallas at 12. He's one of the top 3 players in this draft. That's why people are, and you got teams like the Raiders, the Bears, people ahead of the Cowboys. If you're saying, well, who are the best players regardless of position, he's one of them. And in a draft that's really muddy at the top, that's why you take a guy like that.
There are some athletes, and apparently Jeanty's one of them. Floyd Mayweather is the most perfect example of it, right? I don't need to get on the offensive. I'll just wait for you to start moving, and then I anticipate it. It's almost like they can see the future.
Chess.
And I'll just move
chess.
out of the way and hit you before you were even planning on hitting me.
Yeah,
right?
make you expose all your cards.
Yeah. And Le'Veon Bell was a great one with the Steelers. And it's the ability to read how the shoulders and the hips turn and the intention of a player going a direction.
Yeah.
And you absolutely can't teach it. And there's nothing anybody else can do training wise to make up for the fact that you have this trait.
Sure.
So. I mean, I'm sold on the idea of Jeanty at 12. It's partially because of how special of a guy that he is, but also what Brian's told us about the other players.
Let me give you a poor man's Jeanty then, if that is the avenue that you want to go.
Yeah.
Harvey from Central Florida.
Thank you.
Tremendous patience, tremendous vision, tremendous ability to make people miss. He's a third-round guy.
Yeah.
But he probably doesn't he's not going to have the accolades of what Jeanty is, but everything you described about Ashton Jeanty can also be applied to Harvey from Central Florida.
Yeah, I've said on the draft show, like last year, Bucky Irving, very, very productive, goes to Tampa Bay, and that was a middle-round pick. I think Harvey is this year's Bucky Irving. Big fan of his.
Well, that'd be exciting, hearing about how many draftable running backs there are in this class. We might get out of this thing like having to learn about multiple different running backs and being excited about the room. A lot of teams could be.
I would have
class.
I would have double dipped this thing if I was the Cowboys, but they had listened to me in 2005. That's us.